feel like that's probably the best way to begin a live stream there. Cool, nobody's watching yet, so this is great. I'll wait till maybe 2 people come on. I actually don't know. These are not the right gloves for this particular activity. And I've not tried putting gloves on my gimpy hand, so I'm probably not going to try to do that. Let me check to see how the audio is, though, before I get too far ahead of myself here. It's going to be trippy. Ugh. It's pretty quiet. Ugh. Okay. Maybe that's better. I just need to project more. Cool. Good enough. Okay. Yeah. What is up? Welcome to a thing that I promised I would do at the beginning of the year, back when I was full of hope and joy and whimsy. That has since faded, but that's okay. We're still going to do it because what else is there to do? Currently going to be watching the UFC fights because these are probably some of the worst fights I think I've seen in a while, like on a pay-per-view card, at least pay-per-view. I'm not really doing pay-per-views anymore. Hello, thank you for tuning in, appreciate it. So we're gonna watch, well, I'm gonna watch the fights. I don't really want to anymore, but I figured this would be a good opportunity to do the negative project, of which I have a few empty sleeves here. I'm breaking all my shit. I have a bunch of negatives. This is not even all of them. This is just like a large collection of them from the last, how many months are we into the year? That many months. So yeah, I'm gonna go through those, organize them as best I can, talk about the fights that are happening, even though like this is one of those times where like Vicente Luque is fighting Tresean Gore right now. I like Vicente Luque, and you know, I think he looks a little, pudgy, I guess, at middleweight. No, nothing wrong there. It's a 15-pound gap though. He's got Tresean Gore and like some kind of Darce like choke, which he's very good at. Ooh, yeah, he's sitting for it. Oh, it's looking good. Tresean Gore's pretty terrible, regardless of what's happening here. It's just one of those things that this fight card's terrible, and all the people that are fighting it, like they're fine. It's just kind of like this is such a terrible sport, and every week I come closer and closer to not wanting to be a fan of it. So that's cool. Thank you actually for the the what's his name? Prospector. Oh man, fuck. What's his name? Yukon Cornelius. Yukon Cornelius. I will take that. I've been called a lot worse in my time, so I'll take the Yukon compliment any day of the week. I cannot sing at all, and I wouldn't want to waste your guys' time here with trying to, but still, that's a very nice compliment. So yeah, anywho, we're gonna, now Tresean Gore is on Vicente Luque's back, it's full mount. This is the sad thing. The other thing about Vicente Luque, as much as I like him, and I feel like most people do, there was an issue like a couple years ago where he had like brain bleeding, and that was one of those times where I'm like, man, it's really hard to be a fan of this sport because it's like brain bleed. He's like, I still got to fight. I'm like, I don't think you do, man. So anyway, let's talk about film stuff because I feel like that's probably why people people actually watch my stuff, not for my terrible MMA thoughts and opinions. So we've got a bunch of negatives. These were from a long time ago, I believe. Okay, thank you, I guess, for that. This is Fuji 200 from last November. So that goes to show how far behind I am on this particular project. And the thing is, unfortunately, this is actually still probably pretty recent stuff, so whatever. Let me grab, I got a Sharpie because part of my thought is that if I, make notes of what I'm doing here, then maybe eventually I can come back and rescan them. I don't know if this is actually a stocking cap, and I don't really appreciate that language myself, but to each their own. It's more like a beanie situation, at least that's what the listing had it at, but I'm wearing this because I'm very overdue for a haircut, and yeah, so also I think it's fun. Tyson Fury. I'll be honest, I watched his last fight. Not looking too good. Okay, we are a long way removed from the Deontay Wilder series of fights there. And like the Usyk fights were all right. They were really good in the sense that Usyk looked amazing, but I just feel like Tyson Fury's really lost a step. And I'm hoping that when you say, "Oh, you look like Tyson Fury," it's like the pre-retirement depression where he was like didn't look like chewed bubble gum, but that's okay. Either way, it's one of those things. Seems like I would say nice guy, but I think he's like best friends with the Kinahans or whatever. I don't remember his promoter or manager is like wanted in like every country because he's just a terrorist. So, but yeah, I don't know. There's that one video of Tyson Fury's dad. He's on the phone because Tyson Fury's dad wasn't allowed to go into America. Also, Tyson Fury wasn't allowed to go into America. But anyway, he's on the phone after he knocked out Deontay Wilder in the second fight, I believe. That's a really good video. Just like a really, really solid video. So, let's see, 11:25. So I don't really have a great idea as to how I want to sort this. I'm just going to be kind of putting in what film stock it was and like the date at which I shot it. And hopefully that's enough. But, the thought is if I am able to, at some point, have enough time on my hands to go back through this and rescan stuff, if I like it, then we can do that. But given the fact that I've not had any time to put these away in the first place, I suspect that my ability to go back and rescan is going to be probably a pipe dream. So, also I think that this is just going to be a very fun reminder of just how much film that I shoot, because it is quite a lot. We're in the third round of Tresean Gore, Vicente Luque. Not a very good fight. Luque looks very old. He does not look very good. Tresean Gore is, I would say that he's a pretty good fighter, but he's not like great in any way. Let's see. Cool. Not going hunting. A lot of my family hunts. I never really got too far into it. So no, I'm not going hunting. I don't even know what season it is right now. Maybe deer season, because it always feels like it's deer season. But shout outs to you, sir. I'm glad you're hanging out with your friends, doing photo walks. I think well, I've got a video I need to shoot here soon regarding that kind of topic, because I think this kind of goes with any hobby. Like, I know a lot of people that do ceramics, or they do painting, and yoga even is, I guess, a hobby, but like, you know, any of these things that like gets you out, gets you interacting with people your age and stuff, it's like super beneficial. For me, film photography is like the best for that because it incentivizes you to go out and like meet people and, um, you know, go to different parts of the city that you're living in that you might not have gone to before. I think it's a really good time. So appreciate that very much. I'm glad that you enjoy the content. Yeah, I will say I've not done, as I'm sure a lot of you have, if any of you are up to date or interested or concerned, I've not done a lot of like replying to comments and like just general outreach stuff as of late. My bandwidth has been pretty shrunken down. I've been trying to get out a little bit more to meet people and do stuff, and eventually I will try to respond to more comments and stuff like that. But I think that this, excuse me, is in some way bridging that gap. Maybe, maybe not. Who fucking knows? But yeah, I'm hoping that, you know, try to respond to people more. It also is like I got a lot of emails I need to get back to, so I'll be doing that after this wraps up. I don't know how long I'm gonna have this go for. Probably like an hour or something like that. We'll see. I'd like to try to get some of these sorted, so I have to stop talking as much and start actually sorting them. But anyway, I'd like to respond to some emails. I'll probably put together a members video for that, so if you're a Bronco buddy, you'll get exclusive access to me responding to emails. But I'll talk through them and stuff, and I've got a little chart that I was using before the handbrake, wrist brake, whatever, just to kind of process new clients and then also make sure I've got an idea of like, I don't know, it's always interesting because like I'll go through over the course of the 6 years I've been repairing people's cameras, there will be like stints of time where I get like 681s back to back to back to back, and then it'll be like 7 Spotmatics or something like that. There's no real trend to it, it just kind of happens that way sometimes. And I think it'd be kind of nice to have actual data to back that up. And had I been operating like an intelligent businessman, which I never have been, I would have had that already, but it's all good. I can do it soon and have something to talk about. So that is the end of that roll of Fuji 200. I believe I shot this through Nikon F3 in November. I was finishing up this roll, and then I went to shoot, I believe, probably this roll, if I had to guess. Yeah, this is Portra 400 here. These are some of my sister and her fiance's save the date photos, which I think turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with some of them. I was not super happy about the Super 8 film that I shot, but that's a story for another day. So I will make a little portrait. Anyway, there's a song by the Limousines, which is a band I don't think exists anymore. I'm not entirely sure, but my buddy and I used to listen to it when we were like 12, 13 years old in Boy Scouts. And it is called We Are Very Busy People, or Very Busy People. And personally, I think it's one of the best songs just ever made. It's a really good time. Listened to it the other day and I was like, man, this thing, it still hits. There are a few things better in life than revisiting old music and finding out it's not the worst thing you've ever heard in your life. I think that's really good, but neither here nor there. Minolta SRT 101. Very good luck on that. I have one that I think it's done. I have to double check. I love working on those things, but I also hate working on them at the same time because it's one of those cameras where it's either like the easiest fix in the world weirdest fix in the world, like just the most bizarre issue has come up with it, or it is dead. And it usually like takes a while to kind of figure out like, oh, this thing's just never going to work again. And I've also, I think, on average, excuse me, if I was to take like, oh, Trayshawn Gore one, that's whatever. I think Vicente Luque should retire, but whatever. If I was to take like all of the cameras that I've worked on, like all the different types, and kind of do an idea of like which one is the best, which one's like traditionally, which ones are the cleanest, which ones are the nastiest. I feel like the SRT series are usually pretty high up there just in terms of the stank that they usually have. I've seen some very clean ones, that is to be sure and true, but I've also seen some that are just like, where did you dredge this out of? Like, what river was this left to rot in? It's just the worst thing you've ever seen. But mirror stuck, yeah. So that's probably going to be a shutter timing issue, dry shutter. Those things are typically correlated. The other thing you should probably check too on those is this is going to be kind of dumb, but there's the stop down mechanism on the front, as I'm looking at it, head on the lower left. There's that little thing there. I believe the SRT 101 has a stop down lever. It has a stop down lever, but it doesn't have a hot shoe. Underneath that, at the bottom of the camera, there's a big spring system. And that spring invariably develops rust for whatever reason. And I found that like if that's too rusty to like articulate, that can also gum things up. So it's always worth just like taking a little diluted white vinegar and a Q-tip and just swabbing that away. But yes, that would be my thought there. Don't mess with the string if you don't have to. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. The string in that thing is abysmal. But anyway, let's see. Oh, whoa. Yeah, dude. What? Stop. Stop showing this. I think he lost his tooth. I think Trayshawn Gore lost his tooth, and they just like they had it in someone's hand. It was like a close up. It was like, no, why would you do that? That's the worst thing I've ever seen. That was like so deeply disturbing. Sorry, that like really took me out of it. I hate the sport. I hate the sport so much sometimes, dude. It's just like it's just not good. Oh my God, Justin James. Holy shit. Justin James is a horrible. Okay, seems like a nice guy. Terrible fighter. He was in the UFC, and like right before one of the betting scandals, he was like on his last fight, and he bet his show and win money that he was going to win the fight, and then he didn't win the fight. And the best thing about the UFC contracts is like 10 and 10, right? So like, and that's very generous. So they're usually lower than that, but like you get paid X amount of money to like make weight and get to the fight. And if you win the fight, then you get double that typically. So he basically bet double the money that he didn't have and he lost the fight. And I remember I messaged him because I felt really bad. I like messaged him on Instagram. I was like, hey man, like I think you had a great performance. Like take care. And he was like, thanks, we'll get him on the next one. Like he responded to me. And I was like, man, tough guy. But he was getting clowned on because it was just like ridiculous behavior. Now it's illegal for fighters to bet on their own fights and for coaches, which like it should have been to begin with, but it took two massive betting scandals like 4 years apart for that to happen. So that's cool. Next fight up is Dante Johnson versus Eric McConaughey. Just people that work at gas stations are going to be fighting. Paramount Plus. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Paramount Plus as a streaming platform, but I feel pretty comfortable to say it's one of the worst. ever been designed. It's not only is the quality like terrible, but like the products that are on here are so bad. Like, and like I will say, no, I won't. I was gonna say there's a positive here, but there really isn't. They keep showing like the Mobland, which is a show with Pierce Brosnan and Tom Hardy and Helen Mirren. I'm like, oh, Mobland season 2, and I remember I got um, I got Paramount Plus to watch the UFC because the normal routes that I was using, which legality is subject to question on that front, but it's fine. It's a $7 billion company. I don't think that my however many monies for ESPN Plus, which ESPN Plus is bad news bears, but regardless, I don't think they're missing out my money, basically, is what I was saying. But anyway, I got Paramount Plus, and I've been trying to find reasons to like rationalize it outside of my weird addiction to the sport, and it's really hard. Like, it is hard. It's bad. Like, Mobland is one of the worst shows I've ever seen in my life. It is so painful to watch. Like, I got like, I'm really good at getting through shows that I don't want to watch for whatever reason. There's like this little gremlin in my head that's like, you gotta finish it. Like, you've already got 30 seconds in. You might as well just finish all 8 episodes that are an hour long apiece. But I had to stop watching. I could not watch it anymore. So anyway, but yeah, season 2's coming out of that. Can't fucking wait. Woo! Anyway. Any opinions on half-frame cameras? Looking at Olympus Pen FT on eBay, I'm tempted, although I could use that money on another lens for the EOS 5. I shot with a Pen FT kind of recently. This is the what was this, ADOX 50HR, the Leica monopan film, basically. I shot this earlier this year, I believe. Anyway, back to your question. The Olympus Pen FT, I shot with one of those fairly recently. I believe it was last November, with a roll of Ferrania Solaris 400. And I've always been very skeptical about them because they're just kind of weird looking to me, and I don't know. There's something wrong with my brain sometimes. I build this kind of like story about a camera system or something, and I'm like, this is a bad thing, but it usually never is. And after using it, the Pen FT, I believe, has the light meter. Depending on the price, it's a usually pretty solid camera system. I think my only concerns with half frame is a lot of shops will charge you extra to get it developed and scanned. So whatever cost you're potentially saving, it is still a pretty big savings given you're doubling the amount of shots you get, but you're having the quality, and then you're also paying more for it on that front. So like that's a component that I always kind of think about. I also think that like 72 pictures is a lot of pictures. Like, that's a lot of photos. And I really struggle to go through those photos. Like, anytime I shoot the Pentax 17, I just have a really hard time like wanting to sit down afterwards and like kind of go through each of the photos, because I'm just kind of like, you get to a point, or at least I do, we're just like, I gotta finish up this roll. I gotta move on to the next thing. So depends a lot on the camera. I think the Pen FT is a really solid camera. It's a fun little SLR experience. It's not too small. You have controls over things, which you don't with the like Pen EEs and stuff, which I have one over here. I think I moved it because I kept knocking it down onto the floor, but I do like those. The Pen FT, though, it's a good camera. I think it's a solid camera. Depends on the lens you're thinking about for the Canon, though, because there are some really good EF lenses. And if you are bringing the EOS 5 Yes, if you're bringing that camera around more frequently or more incentivized to want to use that, I would say that's probably maybe a better investment. But if you want to try something new, the Pen FTs do hold on to their value. So if you buy one, as long as it's not like an outrageously expensive model for whatever reason, and you don't like it, you can probably resell it, get your money back, and then buy the lens or whatever. Which, that's just a thing you could probably do. So I would say it's always worth trying because you'll never know if you like it or not. And yeah, I don't know. Half frame is a very interesting thing. I'm also like, I'm saying this as I'm recording vertically. I'm not terribly fond of vertical framing all the time, but it just kind of, I don't know, there's something about the Pen FT that I'm like, I don't want to have to do this to get a horizontal photo, and I don't know, I'd have to use it more, I think, to formulate more well-rounded opinion and perspective on it. But I am trying to use the Pentax 17 more for upcoming projects, because I'm kind of on the fence as to whether or not I want to sell the Pentax 17. I kind of do, to be honest, because I just don't think I'm going to use it that much more moving forward. But that's not because of the half frame, that's because of the camera. I think my favorite half frame camera system is still the Canon Demi EE17, because it literally is one of the best looking film cameras I think ever made. And then beyond that, the optics are incredibly sharp. It's a Canonet, but half frame, and there's no quick load feature, which is great because I can hate the Canon quick load system. It's awful, but that's fine. So yeah, that's my thought on that. Hope that helps. Paramount Plus, yes. Paramount Plus it's just weird. I don't really know who it's for, but like every product is just like Taylor Sheridan. It's just like just shitting out a new really weird thing and just like, okay, what are we doing here? Fucking Billy Bob Thornton is just shit talking windmills. Like, what is this? It's just hilarious to me. I don't know. I know, like, they're trying to get into sports and stuff, which I guess is cool, but it's tough. I think the UFC on Paramount Plus is one of the weirdest pivots I've ever seen, and so far the experience has been pretty terrible because there's ads everywhere. Everything's an ad. Right now I'm watching like 2 minutes worth of ads. I pay for the premium thing or whatever, but it doesn't matter because you still have to watch the ads for live events. So I don't know. The streaming thing has just gotten out of hand, but that was bound to happen. I think like it's one of those things. Just one of those things. You know, when Netflix came around, which, not to sound old here, but I remember back in my day when Netflix sent you DVDs. It actually wasn't back in my day per se, but it was. I was a child. Yeah, that is the audience. That is the audience. It is definitely generic. It's like, okay, it's like tapioca pudding. That's Paramount Plus is the tapioca pudding of streaming services, and then the UFC being on it is like raisins in tapioca pudding. Like, terrible, but at least it adds a little bit of, I don't know, dexterity, but like not even good. It's just slight mushiness, weird dried fruit. Anyway, I like raisins. I shouldn't shit talk on them. Regardless, there was a movie with Robin Williams where he was like a late night show host or something like that, and then he decides to run for president because he's pretty popular. I think it's called like Man of the Year or something. And I remember when I was a kid, my stepmom rented it on Netflix, and we watched it. And I think she also rented iRobot with Will Smith, and I watched that on Netflix. But it was like, you know, the DVD Netflix. That's always what I think of when I think of Netflix. But yeah, I think the development of Netflix into the like pandemic area and like people depending on that for like their entertainment and stuff, that was always going to lead to this, which is massive conglomerates that are trying to like extract as much value out of the hype as possible while delivering the least amount of value to the consumer. Just my opinion. Actually, not my opinion. I feel like there's a lot of evidence to support that opinion. But it doesn't matter. Neither here nor there. Oh, cool. This is the HP 200 film from the Tillamook trip. You might not be able to see it super well, but it does say Hewlett Packard on the sprockets. So that's kind of neat. That's kind of cool. I will say, not to like toot my own horn too much, but that Tillamook video is probably one of my favorite things I've put together ever. I have a few more down the pipeline, but somebody had to go and get married, and it just took a long time. And then also somebody had to go break their wrist. So like that's also been a bit of an issue. Jordan's not really, well, he's been busy. He set up his like film booth thing. So yeah, anyway, we've all been a little bit busy. Although I think their busyness has been fun. Mine has just been slightly annoying and drug-induced busyness. Although I will say, post-surgery, I did not take hardly any pain meds. Partly because I didn't really want to, but also because I didn't necessarily need to. But as I'm doing, like, I have to do physical therapy for this because I'm not joking, like, my mobility, getting right into that fight. So I've got to do all this stuff, and there's a big scar there. I don't know if you can actually see it. There's a giant scar, obviously, from where they had to cut my wrist open. And that has, like, if I don't moisturize it enough, it feels like it's breaking apart every time I move my wrist, which is a deeply uncomfortable feeling. And that has really made this whole experience just the most amount of fun I've ever had in my life. It's just been like not like the pain I would say has been like manageable for the most part, but the discomfort has been monumental, is what I would say, is the best way of describing that. Oh yes, storing negatives. I don't really have a great method for this. The reason I'm doing this currently is because my storage system has been, this is again, not all of them. This is just from probably the last 6 months, I want to say. But yeah, I'll get them back in envelopes, and then they sit here. And then I think, oh, I'm going to do something with them, and then I don't. But when I eventually do something with them, oh, Dante Johnson just knocked out Eric McConico. Anyway, so when I do get around to storing them, I have these like print file negative sleeves, and I have one of these fancy binders that like latches shut. Now, there's a few different schools of thought on this. I think a lot of people will say you have to do this, like you have to get this, which fair. This doesn't allow for a lot of stuff to get in, like dust and whatever else. But regular binders will work as well. I just don't, like, I think these cost maybe like a few bucks more, so I think it's worth it. And then also this sits more flat, so you can get a few of these and stack them up on top of each other. Currently, this is the only one I have, though. The other binders I have are just normal binders, and so eventually I like to switch them all over to this style, and then, again, try to do some kind of, like, organizational system of being like, oh, this is the year that I shot these, and this is that year, whatever. I don't know if that's going to happen, because, again, I'm so far behind on this as it is. But a girl can dream, you know. Girl can dream. Let's see. Roommate, broken wrist. He used vitamin E oil. Yes. I actually went to a wedding 2 weeks ago up in Vancouver, and one of the guys that was there sharing the table, super nice German guy, shout out Carl, literally one of the nicest people I've ever met. I want to hang out with him, but regardless, he was recommending some stuff too, because he was like, you American pharmacies, he works in like the pharmaceutical field in Germany. He's like, American pharmacy stuff is literally just take drugs. And I'm like, yep, that's what we do here. And he's like, you should try XYZ. And he wrote a bunch of stuff down on the list. So I'll be doing that. I'll look into the vitamin E oil though, thank you. Just because this is like, yeah, like it's a pretty substantial scar. And yeah, it's not great. It's not great. Also, like I said, it hurts quite a bit. But whatever. Very nice. Wish I had 3 trips planned, but that's okay. And so I actually do have the 24 to 105 lens. I'm looking at it right now, but I'm not going to get up and show you because it's over there and I don't want to stand up. But I'm gonna love that lens. I've tried shooting it occasionally on like the Rebel series of cameras, like the XS and the G and all this stuff. And I like it for that, but honestly, I think when it comes to that lens, like it is such a good video lens for me. I've been using it on the R5. Oy. This bad boy with the adapter, obviously. And I think it like works perfectly. I absolutely love it. It's one of the best lenses I own personally. However, I think for like travel stuff, I don't know. For travel stuff, I think that the Pen FT is probably a perfect camera. And I feel the same way about like the Demi EE17. Like I really want to take that on like a European holiday if I ever have the finances to do that. Because yeah, I feel like that'd be a lot of fun. And it just feels like kind of tailor-made for that kind of experience. And the 24 to 105, like there's very few things that lens can't do, really. The image stabilization is great if you're wanting to take like slightly slower exposures, like anywhere in like the 1/15th to 1/30th range. I have the caffeine jitters, so like anything south of 160 is pretty much no-go for me, but with the image stabilization on that lens, it like actually holds up pretty well. On video though, I've been able to like shoot at like 105 handheld and get like fairly decent video quality. So long as the thing's like far enough away. The macro feature on it's also nothing to thumb your nose at. It's a pretty solid lens. I've had it for almost like 9 years now, 10 years, almost 10 years. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh man, old as the hills. But yeah, that lens is great. I've loved it for a very long time. Just Jiminy Christmas. There's actually a very funny story about that lens in particular, which I'll just go ahead and share because I feel like there's really no point in pretending that I'm smart or cool or special. You know, we all got to start somewhere, basically. And when I got that lens, I also got it in, what did you do? Sorry. I got that in like the 50 lens, like the nifty 50, you know, the little guy. Very good lens as well, 51.8, not too shabby, but I don't think these are cut, so we'll hold on to that. So this is before I went to film school. Okay, I got those 2 lenses and a camera, and I was enjoying the use of, can I turn the mic? No, I actually can't. I'm using my phone. I can just project more. That's pretty much all I can do. So I'll try to do that. I feel like sometimes I kind of talk more quiet because the walls of this apartment are very thin and I don't want my neighbors to hear all my stupid thoughts. But I can try to project more and let me know if that sounds better. next time I do this, I will set it up properly and have a mic and things, but for now, we're just raw dogging it, okay, for lack of a better term. So anyway, I get these lenses, I get this camera, and I think, oh, I'll like take photos and stuff. This will be great. I didn't know what focal lengths were, to be honest, and I still have no real idea what I'm talking about most things, but I do know what focal lengths are, but at the time I did not. And I thought, well, surely the 50 millimeter lens being smaller, it's going to be wider. And it is not. And there was just a time where I was like trying to take a picture of someone, and it's like way too close, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I remember I like didn't want to use the 24 to 105 because I'm like, this is a long lens, I don't want any part of that. And then I put it on and I was like, this is just way better than the 50 millimeter. So that was a little embarrassing, I'll be completely honest, but it's just one of those things. I feel like you have to kind of experience that kind of failure and that humbling, you know. Why you low-key seem to a Canon SLR? Thanks. Why you low-key seem to a Canon? Dislike. Oh yes. Okay. Why do I seem to dislike Canon SLRs? I don't. I don't. But I don't prefer them, if that makes sense. Like, okay. No part of this is going to sound sensible, and this is not like stuff that I recommend. Oh, this is X-Band shit. What was this? Color Plus, yes. At no point is this going to be rational or sensible or dictate your decisions or your preferences. So bear that all in mind, please. But when I began working on cameras, a lot of the cameras I was working on were Canon AE1s, and so I got very used to fixing them, tearing them apart and stuff. And I just kind of mentally started associating them as cameras that never worked because the only ones I was seeing were bad. Anyway, then I tried using one, and there was just something about it that I didn't really click with me, because I think with the AE1 in particular, the light meter readout bothers me a little bit, just because you look through and it's like, oh, this is the aperture you should be at, and then you have to like adjust the aperture. At least you probably get used to it, all these other things. I just never really did. It never quite clicked. I do really like the A1, but by the time I started shooting with A1s more, I was already using other cameras that I just melded with a little bit more and better, and so I kind of preferred using those. Like the Nikon F3, for instance, like I kind of started using those roughly the same time. Like I got a bunch of A1s that I was repairing and selling, and then I also got an F3 at about the same time. And the F3 is just kind of an infinitely better camera in a lot of ways, and just something that works more for me and for how I like them. But I'm trying to think. I really do think like the TX is one of my favorite cameras, which is gonna sound really stupid because it's a TX, but I think it's because it's so unassuming that I really love it. They're just really dependable, reliable. It's like the Canon Nigromat that nobody really talks about. And the FTB is like pretty cool, but I hate the quick load feature. Like I just think that's the dumbest thing ever. And then what other like SLRs jump out? The F1 series I never got too far into, so I don't have too many opinions regarding those. I would like to try to shoot with them in the future at some point. There's somebody I know who has one that was going to give it to me to shoot with, or let me borrow it or whatever. I think that ended up falling through for one reason or another. I probably forgot to message him back, but neither here nor there. But yeah, anyway, I try to not dislike them too much, But if you're into like, oh, quick, grab a film camera, they probably wouldn't be the first one I grab. I do really like the Rebel series of cameras because I have all EF lenses. But yeah, there's just something about the Canon ones that just don't click with me as much for reasons that make no sense, really. Rude, okay, hurtful about the toilet clogging thing. I don't do that, I'll have you know. I have a relatively balanced diet, okay? And that's not an issue that I run into a lot of the time, ever, really, quite frankly. Um, Depending on the toilet, though, I will say, and I feel like at that point, that's more the toilet's fault than mine. You know, like I can't control the plumbing of every environment that I'm in, right? But I will say the building I live in is a very old building, and it's one of those things that you'd think, given the age of the building, the plumbing would be terrible. It's not. And if it was, I wouldn't know because I've never plugged the toilet here. So, what's it to you? But regardless, all that to be said, good man, thank you. Yeah, next time we'll have a better mic situation. I don't know if I'm gonna do this again ever. I probably will because it's actually really easy to do. Just create quick. I mean, we're on 46 minutes. I'm getting some stuff done, kind of. Otherwise, I would just be sitting here watching the fights, questioning my life choices. But at least this way, I'm sorting my negatives. I'm talking about clogging toilets and avoiding a midlife crisis, if you want to call it that. So that's cool. That's something. Elden Ring, though, I've heard a lot of really good things about, especially when it's coming out. Obviously, everybody was talking it up and having a good time with it. It's one of the few video games I think that's come out in the last few years. I'm like, I wouldn't mind playing that, but I just think like with the open world games and stuff like that, I love the idea of them, but I'm more of like if I'm gonna play a video game, it's like 30-minute kind of video game thing where like I want to log in, play real quick, and then be done. And it does not seem like it's one of those kinds of games, and I just don't think my brain is wired in that way at this current moment. But who knows? Who knows? I think it looks beautiful. I think it would be a lot of fun to play. But I think I have an Xbox One. That is my most recent bit of technology. And I have a PlayStation 3, like the original PlayStation 3, the big giant one that came with, it was like a off-road racing game called like Dirt Storm or some shit like that. I don't remember what it was. It was like Motor Storm, I think it came with. And that was like the only game I had for it for the longest time, and Modern Warfare 2, which was great. And I really enjoyed Modern Warfare 2. I maxed out everything on that game. I played it endlessly. I know every single campaign, every single map like the back of my hand. Wasn't very good, I'll be completely honest, but it was a lot of fun. And then I got Far Cry 3, and I sunk a lot of hours into Far Cry 3. That is, to date, one of my favorite video games. But I think just like, I see the video games now, outside of Elden Ring, but like a lot of them are just so stressy. Like it's just so like intense online multiplayer. You know, you gotta spend like $400 for like cosmetics, which, I don't know, man. I remember my sophomore year of high school, we went up to wrestling camp, and there was a guy there, and I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I remember his face because he just looked really sad the whole time because his mom found out that he stole her credit card and bought like, I think it was like $3,000 worth of skins on, I want to say Dota, but it could have been, what's another one of those games? It's like the like tower defense kind of games. It was a game that never made any sense to me, but apparently he stole her credit card and then spent so much money on. And then she found out, and then he went to wrestling camp, and he was just like dreading going home because he didn't want to get in trouble. What was his name? I don't remember his name. Doesn't matter, but it was just a really I think about that sometimes when like people are like, oh, like everything's microtransactions now and stuff, which just doesn't appeal to me. And then they had they just like remade, I think it was League of Legends actually. I think it might have been League of Legends. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter that much, but yeah, like Halo, they just like re-released the first one of that, and it's like I love Halo. I played the original one like as a child, probably younger than I should, but I really enjoyed it. Um, and they've remade it twice now. It's like make new shit. Why is everything become like wealth extraction? We're like not getting anything new or interesting or creative anymore. It feels like, but what do I know? This is Fuji 200 X-Pan shots. Very exciting stuff. I've heard a lot of good things about Knights of the Old Republic too. I think I've heard like a lot of really, really good things about that, and there's people that want that to be remade or like remastered and stuff. But I think it'd be kind of cool to like check out the old one. There's a few like Far Cry 2 is another video game that like I'd really like to play through. I have it, but it's a very slow and difficult game, and I never like had the time in my brain. I'll like sit down and like think, oh, I'll play a video game, and I'm like, no, I don't have time for that. But then I'll scroll on my phone for 30 minutes or whatever. It's the same thing with reading. It's such a problem. Like I don't have time to do this, and it's like, well, if I just shut up and did it, I would have done it, and then whatever. Yes, there is a kind of growing sentiment, I suppose, if you want to call it that. But I think like inch mile kind of discussion here, where it's like the more that companies and executive choices are rationalized because they're adhering to the wants of the shareholder, i.e., increased profit, the more they're able to get away with that comfortably, they're going to take it as far as they can. And because we live in such a cool system, so many of these things have become monopolized to the point where if you want a thing, there's really only one place to go for that thing. Like, for instance, MMA. If you want to watch MMA, you're pretty much stuck watching the UFC. And, it's worse, though, if you're a fighter. If you want to fight in MMA, if you want to try to create a career out of it, you can't. But your only solution is to fight in the UFC, which is going to pay you the least amount that it possibly can, while also robbing you of any kind of autonomy that you could have as a person, because you are not an employee of the UFC, you are a contractor, which is just fancy jargon for you don't really matter, and we don't have to pay you anything, and you also don't get health insurance. So if you do get injured during your fight camp, try to stick it out to the fight, and then make sure that that part of you gets injured in the fight as well, so that it's covered afterwards. It's a pretty cool system. It's pretty sweet. Big fan. But the thing is like, as I'm actively participating in it while watching these fights and stuff and talking about them, they're winning. I mean, winning. But it's a cumulative thing. Like, every time they do an event in person, they'll come out and be like, oh, we had the highest gate of this place. Like, right now they're in Philadelphia. And they'll probably come out afterwards and be like, oh, this has been the highest gate in Philadelphia. And it's not because they like sold out all the tickets and everyone's loving it. It's just because they raised the ticket prices so much because they can. And it's how everything is right now. So it is what it is. That's why I think like Kodak having the ability to distribute all of their film under their own power is very, very significant and very beneficial, and something I don't want to lose sight of. I just wish they'd kind of mix up the design of their packaging a little bit, just for fun. Why not? You know. But at the same time, it's all right. This trailer for me. Just make new stuff. Like, just make a new thing. Like, make a new thing. And it's the Thomas Crown thing is also interesting because it's like the original one is a phenomenal film, but like, what's the actual cultural cachet behind that product? You know what I mean? Like, they did a Time Bandits TV show like a couple years ago with like Lisa Kudrow and stuff. It was like directed by what's his face? The Tiki, the New Zealand guy. Doesn't matter. I love Time Bandits. Okay, that's like one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. I don't think I've ever spoken. I went to film school. Okay, I went to film school. I went to film school, and I don't think anyone I went to film school with had ever heard of Time Bandits before I mentioned it. And that's film school. People are weird there. People watch all kinds of weird shit. What are we doing? Like, what? Why recreate it? But people do. Taika Waititi. That was the guy I was trying to think of. Anyway, and then like nobody watched it. Nobody wanted to mess with it. Oh well, you know, it is what it is. A lot of people complained about it. I was just like, why are we revisiting this? I don't know. And then also all of the like new trailers for all the new like Disney stuff is coming out. It's all the sequels and remakes and everything like that, which is fine, whatever. It's very interesting to me. I don't know what the actual intrigue is there. I think it's just like people are just like slowly Wall-Eing themselves, you know, just like sitting in the chair like, oh look, a live action remake of so and so. That's nice. And just, oh, Frozen 3, that's nice. I don't know. Very interesting time. Oh no. Charles Johnson got poked in the eyeball and they're not going to do anything about it? That's cool. I love this sport. What up? I hope you enjoyed your walk. I would really love to develop my own film again. I enjoy the process of it. I don't know how your experience is, but every time I've done it, I just get really sweaty, which I'm getting sweaty now, but that's just, I guess I run kind of hot. But like, I also don't have a good scanning setup, but I do know that if I developed film, sorry, I'm just trying to see what happens here. I would save so much money. Genuinely, I would save like so much money if I developed my own film and scanned it in, because and this is not like oh, they raised their prices, but Darkroom did raise their prices. It's like $14 a roll now, which is fine, whatever. But it's also just like, oh no, it's getting expensive. Not that it was like, oh, that's a bad eye poke. I'm so glad that Charles Johnson got poked in the eye. The ref did absolutely nothing, blamed him, and then got kneed in the head while he was grounded. What is this? What is this sport? What are we doing here? Take multiple points. This is the stupidest shit ever. Anyway, sorry. I'm gonna try to not talk about the fight stuff because it's dumb and it makes me annoyed. Oh, nice. The ref just like asked for a towel, and the guy couldn't even throw the towel into the cage properly. It like outside of the cage. Anyway, I'll talk about photo stuff because that's better and more important. Let me see really quickly. Okay, so I will talk about the sound issue very quickly. I don't have a mic. I'm just kind of ripping it off my phone. Let me move it a little closer though. Get a little up close and personal here. I'm trying to kind of project my voice as much as possible. So I hope that helps. If not, I apologize. The next time I do this, which I'll probably do again because it's no skin off my back, I will have an actual mic and I'll do this more properly. This was kind of a spur of the moment thing because I thought if I don't do it now, then I won't do it. If I don't do it now, then I might not do it ever. So whatever, just had to rip the Band-Aid off. How did I learn camera repair? How long did it take before you finally got it? I've been okay with fixing some lenses, but unsuccessful on cameras as of now. Yes, so I would not recommend my strategy of learning. I think it's one of those instances like what works for me might not work for others. I am a very like hands-on learner, and I think that this live stream and like most of my channel is pretty evident of that, where I just have to like do it. I can't like the more I think about something, the more I like try to strategize, the less likely I'm in to actually do it. I have to just like dive in and figure it out. So when I was learning how to fix cameras, sorry, I'm trying to find, anyway, I got a job out of film school on Craigslist at a warehouse, and I was very sick because I'd just gotten back from very strenuous travel, and I show up at this warehouse. The whole time I'm like trying not to cough. It was like pre-COVID times, but I was still like fighting back coughs. Anyway, get in this warehouse, and it's filled to the brim of cameras. The guy showing me around is like, "Oh, are you handy? Do you work on cars?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've like worked on cars. I've changed the oil on cars and stuff like that. Nothing crazy, but like I would consider myself a relatively handy person." And so he's like, "Okay, cool, you have the job." And the job was basically triaging film cameras. So he would buy like lots of cameras off eBay, Goodwill, online back in the day, and I would open it up. I would open up all the boxes, I would test them, and then like later that week, I learned how to fix them, which there was 3 guys in the back room. One of them worked on lenses, 2 of them worked on cameras. And some of my favorite quotes from that time period were, "Washers, we don't need those. It's okay if it rattles a little bit." And there was another one that I really liked. "A little extra grease isn't a bad thing." Those were like kind of the highlight quotes of the whole experience. So it definitely wasn't like the most above board of repairs, but it didn't necessarily have to be because we were just fixing cameras for the boss to sell. Like they weren't individual cameras. Give me 1 second. I don't know how to figure this out. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. Anyway, so the job basically devolved into us fixing the cameras, but nobody really knew what they were doing, which then led to a very fun time where we're all kind of figuring stuff out together a little bit. But it was also not very fun because my boss was pretty weird, but doesn't matter. He then also hired some guy who just started spraying WD-40 into the cameras and calling that fixed, which was not. But it's all good. So yeah, the point being is that my repair education was basically breaking a lot of shit that wasn't mine and that made it easy for me to like learn, I guess. And I got to the point where I could fix like I was going through like no, my max in a week was I think 100. Very very simple, isolated repairs, but you just like line them up and kind of breeze through them basically. So yeah, I don't know. I got really good at that. Did that for a couple of years, and then I had a lot of issues with my boss because he was like, "Spend less time on cameras and make more of them." And I was like, "No, because we should probably like make sure that they're good. Because anytime they didn't work, I'd have to call the person they sold them to on the phone, and they would like yell at me and stuff." And then he would yell at me because I'd tell them to just return it and get their money back. And he'd be like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "Well, we shouldn't sell them garbage then." So I left that job, much to his chagrin. But anyway, since that point, I've just been kind of reading a bunch of manuals. I worked at a different camera repair shop that was actually more above board, and I've learned a bit more from that point. So, yeah, definitely not like the most structured or organized or even most efficient way of learning things, but it kind of worked for me, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, better. Cool. Cool. Good to know. Also, the service manuals are terrible, terribly boring. If you've ever read any of the service manuals, they are incredibly hard to read because a lot of them have been copied very poorly. And then if you don't have like prior knowledge as to what they're talking about, or if you don't have like the tools that they're referencing, it's just kind of helpless, I suppose. Eventually, when I'm able to use both my hands more efficiently, I would like to put together some better repair videos because I really hate a lot of like my repair videos. Just because like they're not very well done, I don't think. Oh, this is. They're not very well done, I don't think, and they're also hard to hear and hard to see, especially my older stuff. And I'd like to revisit it and sorry, one second. Make some corrections because there's also a bunch of stuff I say in there that's just like wrong, and I've gotten, I think, a little bit better at repairing stuff. So I'd like to try to be a little bit more communicative about that. Probably kind of hide a bunch of the older content because it's not very good, but that's going to be a lot of time. But I'll get around to it eventually. Let's see. Check, make sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Excuse me. I got a Epson V550 because I thought that that would be cool and clever and smart, and that was like one of the worst decisions I think I've made in my life, which is stiff competition. I'll have you know. Um, but yeah, I could never get it to look even close to good, no matter if it was medium format or 35. It took forever, and then afterwards it was just like, I'd rather just send it out. So I ended up doing that. But yeah, my buddy John recently got the Naritsu something or another, and that thing rips. So he's been developing some film for me. Shy Film Club, shout him out. Very good stuff on that front. Very excited for those endeavors. But yeah, I think it's too expensive to shoot as much film as I do, which is a lot. Because again, like, this is not even all of it, but this is just like some of it from the last 6 months. It's a lot. It's a lot. I love doing it. I absolutely love shooting film, but this is a very expensive hobby. And then don't even get me started on the 16 millimeter. Da, da, da. 1:30 a.m. Jesus. Well, yeah. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. 1:30 a.m. Tough. I could not imagine listening to me at 1:30 a.m. But hey, I appreciate it very much. Um, I will say like developing isn't that hard. I actually like I've not done a whole lot of it, but like I honestly think it's like pretty doable if you have the time. And I don't know. I like baking too, and for me, people are like, oh my god, you're such a good baker. It's like you just have to follow the directions. That's all. And it's the same with developing film. It's just following the directions. I feel like. You probably get more creative with it in the dark room and stuff, which I've heard is good fun. I do not have the capacity for that financially, physically, or mentally, but I have seen some really cool results from it. I think for me, so I may just yeah, get that in there. Um, if you have a hobby, especially one like this, you can pick different elements of that hobby that you want to invest in. And I think because I've elected to invest in the repair and the motion picture sides of that, that's kind of isolated me from developing the developing at home and scanning at home, because that's another expense and I've already got all these other expenses. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just always how I rationalize it. There's some people that are really into that part of it, but then they don't repair stuff, or there's some people that are really into large format, but they don't do motion picture, and all types to make the world go round is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's a wonderful thing. But anywho, yeah, good to know that the Minolta is also kind of slow, just because, and maybe this is just me, but like when I was starting out, I was like watching videos like, oh, this is my scanning setup. And some of them would be like honest with you and be like, yeah, this scanning setup takes a long time, but the results are worth it. Or they're just like, this is a great product that I got for not a lot of money. And then I'm thinking, oh, I should get something like this. And then you read more reviews and it's just like, this is not the solution to my problems. So, part of my brain is still on the grass is always greener, right? Right? But it usually isn't. There's always some kind of catch or some kind of caveat. But what do I know? Medium box full of film. Jesus. How many? Do you know how many rolls of film was in the box? Because I sent out 12 rolls the other day, and I've managed to squeeze them into like a mailing envelope, like a bigger, something kind of like this size. But it was filled to the brim. So I'm just curious, like in a medium-sized box, you can probably fit quite a lot in there. And how long would that take you to shoot? Because I feel like that's got to be at least a few months, not like a year there. But regardless, yeah. Something else I was gonna say to piggyback off that. Oh, 30. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. 30 rolls. Oh man. Well, I hope to see them. I hope they turned out okay and such. Yeah, I felt like really not greedy, but I was like, man, 12 rolls. This is so much. And that was in the last like month and a half or so. Kind of went on a bit of overdrive. I've been shooting with the Pentax 6.7 quite a bit, and I really do enjoy that camera, but 10 frames doesn't get you very far, I'll tell you that much. Like that is, there's a notable difference between the 12 and 10 frames, I think. What? Oh, you know what this is? This is the Harman Switch Azure. Azure. I don't remember the proper pronunciation, but yeah, that looks wild. Speaking of film and things, a few weeks ago, I posted a video about the Harman BR100 film, or not Harman, sorry, the Lucky BR100. I was writing Harman and meant to say Lucky. And it was terrible. Like, it was an absolutely terrible film. God awful film, waste of time. But I purchased it through a subscription thing from like Brooklyn Film Camera, whatever it is. They have it right here. Yeah, these fools. And because okay, so I saw the ad pop up on Instagram, and I thought like, oh, but that could be interesting. Like I'll look into it, and I thought I would do it for like a couple of months and then make a video about it. So I ordered it. The first three rolls come in. It's two of the BR100, and it's one of like the Agfa ISS black and white 120 film. And I'm immediately, especially after opening up the canister, and like, I cannot describe to you how bad that smelled. Like, I have opened up the lids of septic tanks in the summertime. And it might have just been because the car is a confined space that like the smell hit me as quickly as it did, but it was like worse than septic smells. Okay, I went to summer camps for like Boy Scouts, wrestling, and football. Okay, so I've smelled some really rancid stuff in my time, but this definitely took the cake. When I was working at Walmart way back in the day, I was unloading trucks, and it'd be like 120 degrees outside. It'd be like 130 plus in the truck because it's just a giant metal tube that's been baking in the sun. And they would always ship like the mayonnaise in the unrefrigerated trucks. And we used to get these like giant restaurant size like barrels from Mayonnaise or whatever. It was like different company of mayonnaise. It wasn't like Hellman's Best or whatever the mayonnaise company is. It's a different type of mayonnaise, but it was a massive thing. And the orangutans that loaded the truck at the distribution center like put it pretty low on the ground, and one of the pallets had like fallen and like pierced it. It was in like the back of the 52-foot truck. So for like 2 hours, it was just this rancid mayonnaise smell until you get back to it. It just been like coating the back of the truck. It was one of the worst things. And then the next week, they started shipping in fertilizer, and just like pallets of fertilizer that were then baking in the truck. And it was just like, just cow turds. Like it just smelled like baked turds. It was awful. Anyway, the Lucky BR100 didn't smell like sewage. It was like a chemical smell, but it was so rancid, and it was so like sour. It was pretty bad. But anyway, so I was pretty unimpressed with those results, and I was very unimpressed with the delivery of them. I'm just thinking like, on one hand, I'm thinking, wow, kind of cool that, you know, you order like a variety pack and you get two of the same thing and then one of another thing, whatever. We'll return to that in a moment. Okay. Not terrible fucking variety pack, if I do say so myself. The other hand, I'm thinking, well, this is actually kind of good because if the BR100 doesn't turn out, then I can maybe use this other one as like, I can use one as the test roll, and then I can try to get this other one more dialed in. After seeing the results of the first one and smelling the first one, I've realized I don't want any part to do with this. So then my brain goes into shitty business mode where I'm like, this is a great way to offload terrible product that you couldn't sell otherwise. You can sell it at a premium. Think back to the Big Short film where Anthony Bourdain is talking about like the seafood special or whatever. You know, they buy a bunch of halibut or whatever, and then people don't eat it on Friday when it was fresh, and now it's Sunday and you have to do something with it, so you chop it up and make it a stew. You know, people aren't buying your shitty expired film because it's terrible, and then, well, you know, it's a subscription pack. Buy one now. So I foolishly let the subscription go one more month just to see what I would get. And this month I received 2 rolls of this in medium format, which is the same thing I got the first month, and another roll of Lucky, this is just 2, Lucky Color 2, that expired even earlier than the BR100. So one can only suspect how terrible that is. Anyway, I have many thoughts about it. I'm not trying to like start too much beef or create any kind of like controversy, but I think that this year has just been a very consistent and continual reminder that expired film is just, it's not worth it. And I think you have to be a certain kind of scummy, sleazy kind of person to sell expired film at a premium. Just my thoughts. Take that for what you will, but yeah. I don't know. There are some expired films, like the newer expired films, like the really rare stuff, whatever. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. There's some stuff where it's just like, if you've shot it, or even if you haven't shot it, if you've shot it, developed it, you have like good results, okay, there's a pathway to using it. But if you've not done anything with it, if you just purchased a giant pallet of shit and then you're offloading it for a premium, I'm like, what are you doing here? You're just a middleman to my disappointment. But whatever. Middleman to my disappointment and financial ruin, I suppose. But yes, yeah, there is an old camera smell for sure. I will say that there's a few different types. There's like the standard, then there's the smoker, and then in my experience, there's the Floridian swamp ass smell, which is like, oh, this has clearly been in a few basements during any number of hurricanes, tsunamis, typhoons, any kind of grand environmental catastrophe that has probably ravaged through many neighborhoods and upturned any number of lives of people that elect to live in a place that has dinosaurs in the water. That camera's been through it. And like that, I feel bad for you. I really do. But at the same point, could you maybe not then go sell it online with like the worst photos ever, making it seem as though this is actually quality product, which it just isn't. I've been done dirty too many times, but it's okay. Florida's great. It's a great time. Currently, Joel Alvarez is fighting Chidi Njokuani. Joel Alvarez up at 170. Should be a pretty meh fight. This is a fight that people are thinking, oh, this is going to be really good. Joel Alvarez has not looked very good since moving up to 170. He's also substantially older, so that's not good. Chidi Njokuani is a very good striker, but he's also very liable to getting knocked out in the weirdest ways. I thought he was a middleweight. Doesn't matter. I think he used to fight at middleweight, though. Anyway. What's the camera? Oh. So, actually, that's a very good question. Because it is always kind of a fluctuating answer, I'll be honest. But recently, I've been messing around a lot with this. And I have a video I just made about it. Should be going up tomorrow, I think. But the Olympus stylus, really been loving this thing a lot. I've always really enjoyed them. I think that they look really good. I never really enjoyed them because I felt like they were like way too overhyped. But then I just kind of like started using it. I was like, oh no, this actually is just a very good camera and I should shut up. There's some issues with it that I discussed in the video, but I think overall, like, in terms of just providing a fun environment or fun experience, I guess is the word I was looking for, that's great for me. It really does what I need. It's also really easy to just bring with you. I very actually rarely put it in a bag because it's always just like in a pocket for me. But I absolutely have been loving that thing. I also, like, unironically, I've been having a great time with the Nikon N70. I've not shot with it for a couple weeks here, but I've probably shot like 5 rolls through this thing since I got it, which it just doesn't seem real because I'm like, it's in N70. What am I doing? But for whatever reason, it just like it really has clicked with me in ways that I can't fully describe. Um, Absolutely love it. I've honestly not shot too much with the actual autofocus lens because this lens is, I think I got it for free from my aunt. She bought a house, and the guy that she bought the house from was a photographer, and he didn't have any cameras, but he had like this lens and like a giant box for a lens, and then he had like some prints. So she gave me those, and this is like, it's like covered in paint or something. I don't know what the deal is, but it's a 24 to 50, works relatively well. I wouldn't mind getting a little prime lens for this just for the pocketability, but the ergonomics of this thing are fantastic. And I've been kind of just enjoying having this around. It's just like a slightly upgraded point and shoot system, but the Olympus pen, or Olympus stylus, I keep calling it the pen, the Olympus stylus has been a lot of fun. And recently I've been shooting a lot with the Pentax 6.7 as well, just because spend all my money. Why not? You know, what's the worst that could happen? It's not like I'm gonna get any medical bills, right? Fucking. I'm not excited about that at all. I've not been actively thinking about it because I think happiness is a mindset, you know, or ignorance is bliss, or something like that. So I've been electing to just kind of ignore reality, and that has made my life a little bit better. But also, there's this ever looming reality that one of these days they're gonna hit, and it's gonna hit hard. So, what are you gonna do? I've got some more film from the Shy Film Club, Shy Film Lab. Let's see, this is actually the Kodak Gold 200 that I shot through the Olympus stylus. This is the bottom part of this is in San Francisco, and I believe this is a photo that John took of me. I don't know if you can see, when I was eating some Chinese food. And you can't tell in the picture, but I can tell you that that's probably about the happiest I've ever been. It was a very, very fun day that I did with some really good Chinese food. And that's, I mean, what more could you ever want, really? Hang out with your friends, go on a like 10-hour road trip, and then have Chinese food afterwards. Oh, it's a good time. It's a good time. We'll do gold 200 SF. I don't remember what month that was. 26. Excuse me. I've been seeing some dialogue regarding high-speed color films. Some people, I don't actually know who, like genuinely, I've seen a few people and like, it's overrated. And to each their own, genuinely, because I think this is a very like opinionated discussion. But that just seems to me like you haven't shot it before, because I will say Fuji 1600, even in its most like cooked phase that I've shot it in, has so much quality to it. Like, it's such a cool film. I absolutely love that, and I feel like deeply saddened by it not being around anymore in ways that I can't, like, sometimes I think about like Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I'm just like, damn, I wish he was still here. I wish he was still making movies, because like, what a treasure of an actor he was. And I just kind of get a little bit bummed. I get a little bit sad because I'm like, we were kind of robbed of that. Anton Yelchin is another one where I'm just like, super talented actor, super creative individual, died super young. It's a bummer. It makes me just a little sad, right? And I kind of feel the same way about 1600. I'm just like, dang, I don't know. It just would be really nice if we still had it around. I think people feel the same way about the like peel apart instant film. I know that people are trying to recreate it and like reproduce it and stuff, and that's awesome. But I just think that I just feel like 1600 color film, what a blessing that is. And like, it's actually a 1600 film. I don't know what your all experiences with like the Ectacolor Portra 800 is, but I think it needs a lot more light than 800. I think it's more like a 640, 500 kind of thing. Um, it's just I feel like if you actually shoot it in low light at 800, it gets really, really muddy. And with 1600, I've never had that issue. But I don't know. I've not shot all of it. I've not shot it in a while. It could be completely different now. Who knows? I have a few rolls that I'm sitting on that I don't know if I'm ever going to shoot, to be completely honest. I've been thinking about that a lot lately too, where it's like, why am I holding on to this stuff if I'm never going to use it? But I think one day there will be a time where, like, I don't know, the heavens open up and they're like, shoot the film now. Or, I don't know, there's going to be a sign, some kind of burning bush. So until then, we'll see. The flux stuff, boom. I just saw this in the canister there. Pretty good stuff, pretty fun stuff. The F4, love that camera. Absolutely love that camera. The FM, I also love that camera. I was recently watching Burn Notice, the TV show from like the mid 2000s, late. I don't remember when the first season of that came out. Anyway, in the first seasons of that, they're doing like any number of surveillance, and they use a Nikon FM in the first few seasons. One of the first scenes of it, you can actually see that it says Nikon, and then like in the later episodes, they cover over the Nikon, but you can still tell. If you know what you're looking for, you would still know what it is. You know what's up. My brain thinks about stuff like that because I am broken. That's okay. But yeah, anyway, very good stuff. I'm excited to hear how the Flux 400 comes out for you. And I just feel like the F4 is such a unique and enjoyable little part of the past, I guess. Because that kind of weird phase of like 80s to 90s technology where it's like 1980s futurism, but there's still so much to that camera that's like, it's very developed, but it's also still like, as modern as it is, it still has some more, old school tendencies, I guess. I don't know if that really makes any level of sense, but I enjoyed that element of it because I feel like it's a very interesting time in camera development, more generally speaking. Cosmic rays. Probably not, to be honest. I think it's just in the fridge. Just wrap that up in tinfoil or something. Or, I don't know. Get in one of those, like, is it a Faraday cage? With, like, signals can't go in and stuff like that. I'm just trying to think of all the different conspiratorial things that people can lock their stuff in to preserve it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the 1600 is, but it'll be fine. It'll be okay. If it doesn't, then that's okay too. Life goes on. Okay. We are rocking and rolling here. I don't know how many rolls I put in here. We're going on to an hour and a half. It's a very exciting time. I'm trying to think. I had a few other topics I was going to bring up while we're sitting here. I was going to talk about Burn Notice actually, because like that was a show that I was watching as it was coming out. I don't know. It's just such a weird little show. And the funny thing is like Jeffrey Donovan has not really been in a whole lot, and then like all of a sudden he started like popping up in these like little projects here and there, and he's such a bad actor. Like if you watch Burn Notice, he's a very good like physical actor. Like he does all of the stuff and like it looks legit and everything. But like his line delivery is so bad some of the time. And he like play these characters. He's like, I gotta go undercover and all this other stuff. And it's just like it's rough to sit through. Ooh, is this? Yes. This is the HP 200 that I shot through that really terrible camera. The like not Canon camera. Biggest ripoff ever. Not really. There's been plenty more ripoffs, but that's fine. Let's see. HP 200 Canon Scamera. But yeah, I think next time I do this, I will try to set it up in such a way that you guys can actually prepare for. I'll actually prepare for it too. I'll have some like talking points. I'll have a microphone. I'll have Q&A stuff open so you guys can ask questions or whatever. I don't know. I'll figure something else out. But this was just kind of, like I said, I wanted to watch the fights and not just question my life choices. So this way I can have like a bit of a dialogue with myself, kind of. Which, let's be honest, I was going to do anyways. I spend a lot of time talking to myself. Maybe concerning, who knows? But I think it helps with my presentation stuff. It's actually funny because my sister's getting married later this year, and we were just talking on the phone the other day, and she's like, oh, like, I'd asked her, I was like, oh, can I give a speech? She's like, oh, I'd love that, whatever. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, I should be fine. Like, public speaking, that's basically, it's like talking to you guys. But it's different. It's going to be different because she's like, you need to have a script, which is totally fair. Like, she's like, make sure that, your speech isn't like 5, 10, 15 minutes long, like, 3-minute max. Have a script so we know what you're going to say and all this other stuff. Totally get it. Happy to do it. I don't write scripts for anything that I do. It kind of goes back to the repair stuff that we were talking about earlier, where it's like, I have to just do it. I just have to get into it. When I first started making videos, I still had like that little film school goblin in my brain that's like, you have to do everything right. It has to be scripted out. You have to, basically my thought process was, I'll film the video, I will edit the video, I will then write a script for the edit, and then I will record a voiceover for that. I got like half of that done, and I realized I don't want to do that. That's like, we're talking about creating a, like 4 steps to a solution that I could just like have a few talking points and then just kind of like go from there, which in some ways led to me making a lot of mistakes and saying a lot of things that were incorrect, which led to a lot of very constructive comments back in the day. But I think ultimately what it led to is just getting stuff done. And that's just like a muscle you exercise, you get used to it. And now we can do stuff like this where I've been talking relatively nonstop for an hour and a half. And while I haven't really been that coherent, not necessarily run out of things to say, if anyone is playing like any kind of drinking game though, where they're like, take a shot when he says, sorry. Been nice knowing you. I hope that you have good insurance for your liver. But regardless of that, I have developed a very unique skill set, I think, of being able to talk like this for great stretches of time, kind of tie together points that don't necessarily seem totally related. Some people would call that clever. I would call it more like schizophrenic psychosis, but regardless, I'm able to do that, which is great. But it's like I'm talking to myself. There's no one's over there. No one. I mean, my neighbors might be listening in, but fucking lucky them, right? Um, it's different. There's gonna be like 200 people at this wedding. Gonna have to stand up and have a little speech and read off of that. It'll be fine because I'll just like focus on this and just kind of do. Um, and I think I'm looking forward to it because I'll be able to consolidate all of the things I'd like to say into something that's maybe going to be a little bit more efficient. Yeah. This is gold from Michigan. I think this was the Rebel XS. Anyway. So yeah, all that to be said, I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, I gotta write the script out, I gotta do all this, whatever else. It'll be fine, it'll be fun. Looking forward to it. And then, as some of you may know, like, my buddy just got married, and a lot of people stood up and spoke, and it was very, very beautiful. But yeah, literally heard one of the best wedding speeches I've ever heard in my life. I was like, that's chef's kiss, amazing. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I was like, that kind of set a bit of a bar in my mind of like, gotta kind of reach that level of good speech, I suppose. Gold 200. Do you think if I put UP, I will know that that's Upper Peninsula, Michigan? We'll find out. We'll find out. 26. We'll see. Yeah. Dang. Yeah. At some point, I would like to get out to New York because I know a lot of people there, and there's a lot of cool stuff there, but I would really like to check out the coffee shop in person just because I've heard good things from a lot of people. And their coffee, he sent me like 2 bags of coffee, the Flex coffee. It is some good stuff. I'm not like a big coffee connoisseur, I would say, but for my money, it's pretty well. Not maybe send it to me for free, but for my money, very good coffee, very good stuff. So yeah, it'd be cool to check that out. A little bit jealous of you, but that's okay. I'm glad that you're able to head over there. I got some of the Verita from Film Fast Shop or whatever out in Germany. And my initial idea was to do Fusion 200, the Flick film Fusion, then the Optic Old School 200, and then Verita 200, and like do side-by-side stuff. But I think the cat's kind of out of the bag as to what Fusion 200 is. I still have all 3 of them loaded though, so I will probably end up producing that anyway, even though it does appear to be a bit of a moot point. But that's okay. We'll do it anyways. It's fine. Hell yeah. Good stuff. Oof. Little back pop there. No big deal. Been kind of sleeping weird because I'm trying to like kind of elevate my hand and not sleep on it. That's like made me contort my body in weird ways, and so been feeling all kinds of fun new aches and pains, which is doing great things for my general psyche. Yeah, that's cool. I am kind of surprised. There's a lot of coffee out here in Portland. Before I speak out of turn here, let me think. I don't think that there is a coffee shop film thing. I know know that that's kind of the hope with the Shy Film Lab eventually to kind of like make that happen. But yeah, there's no joint venture, at least currently, which is kind of shocking just given how popular both of those things are here. You think that there'd be something like that, but neither here nor there. I do think I've heard of the Long Island Film Club before. I think I might follow them on Instagram, or maybe don't. I don't know. But that's kind of cool. Yeah, I should probably like. I always think about this shit and like have a trip scheduled somewhere and like, oh, I should probably reach out to people and like try to meet up with things and stuff. But then I never do because I'm just like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. But yeah, eventually I'd like to try to be a little bit more active on Instagram and meet up with people and do all that kind of stuff. But I think deep at heart, I really like just being alone. Like, I don't know. I'm just sitting here watching the shitty fights, watching the Pennsylvania travel board propaganda. Listen, I don't know if anybody watching this lives in Pennsylvania. I doubt it. I'm sure it's a great place, but there is no amount of propaganda that can make me want to go visit there. Like, there are some historical elements of Pennsylvania that would be really cool to see, and I'm not like opposed to ever going, but they're like, oh, you can rock climb or go spelunking or ride the rail cars. It's one of those things like I don't know who that works for. I think it would have to be some, you know, retired folks or something like that, you know, which is fine. But like, I don't think that the people that that ad works for are watching the UFC fights. Is all I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Sometimes they'll go to like Australia and they'll have like, oh, you can cliff dive and you know, do all kinds of crazy stuff and punch a kangaroo. Okay, I can see why that would, or like the Abu Dhabi cards. They always do like big blowout Abu Dhabi cards. And they're like, look, we have all of the fancy things you can do, and you can pretend that life is wonderful and perfect and utopian society and all this stuff. Which, like, okay, cool. I can see why that is appealing to this audience. But it's like, do you want to go sit on a cart and pedal down railroad tracks? No. I know you just got done watching somebody get punched in the face, but have you considered spelunking? No. Why would I? Why would you do that? I was also watching a video of like, I don't remember the guy's name, but it was a guy. This is like back in like the 1900s or something, and he was like, oh, like he wanted to explore caves to basically make a tourist trap for like cave tours or something, and he ended up like getting stuck in the cave and dying and things like that. And yeah, and then on his grave they're like, oh, he's the most famous cave explorer or whatever. But he wasn't. It was just because he died when like radio was becoming popular, so like the story was like broadcast to a bunch of people. It's like, wow, what a turn of luck there. But then beyond that, like, I'm not claustrophobic. I'm not that much. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. I think it's the same thing with like claustrophobia and heights. Where like, I'm not afraid of heights, but I'd prefer to not be on top of a building, leaning over it. You know, like, I think I've got a rational fear of falling to death, just as I have a rational fear of getting stuck in a cave because I'm a fairly big individual. I got some height to me, and you know, caves just aren't meant for me. There's a whole world of outside that's worth exploring, okay? I don't know. You know, I just think some people really enjoy that kind of thing. More power to them. Who am I to tell them no? But man, oh man, there's no amount of Pennsylvania propaganda could sell me on that idea of like, that's a great way to spend a Sunday. Mimic smothering yourself to death in a dark cavern. Huh? Have you thought about? I don't know. And then there was the whole, like in the Philippines, I think it was, like the little soccer team that got stuck. I'm like, that shit can just happen. Like it just rained and they were like stuck and they almost died. They didn't because people are miraculous, but like that could have just happened. What? You want me to do that? You're thinking that's a fun way to spend your afternoon? Hell no. No, thank you. Yeah, and people are like, oh, I'm exploring. Like, explore like outside. Like, there's however many mountains that we have not probably climbed. Like, just go on a hike or something. It's weird. Just very strange. And then, not to mention, not to keep kind of griping on this point, but all those like there's like the Descent film or something like that where they're like spelunking and then there's like these weird like proto demon alien monster things. I don't think that those are real. Obviously they're not because it's a movie, but like I don't think stuff like that necessarily exists. But you're telling me that like why do we even want to find out? You know, like what why would you want that? I don't know. Weird to me. Same, it's the same shit with the submarines. Like all the rich people like shoving themselves in a metal tube. Like, okay, more power to you. It's your money. Do what you want. But like, this is not going to go well. And like, what are you hoping to achieve? I'm not saying that we shouldn't explore things, and we shouldn't like try to, you know, push the boundaries of what we can experience, and especially when it comes to like scientific discovery. I'm all for that. But like, I don't know, man. It just feels like there's better ways to spend your money and your time than being shoved into a metal canister full of other people's farts and then going very far down into like ice cold water where you're eventually going to just be imploded on each other. But maybe I just don't have that millionaire grind set. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe to be a efficient businessman, a savvy business operator, I have to be thinking about the fart canister. I got to be yearning for that fart canister in order to achieve that level of success. And I don't know. It's just weird to me. It is just weird to me. But to each their own. I also, just in case anyone's curious, every time I open this up with this hand, I need to not do that because it does hurt quite a bit. There's like this weird like jolting pain that comes through if I like use this hand or this arm like too quickly. I was like trying to like close the door of the car the other day and I can't do that. I have to like reach over with this arm to do it. It's just weird stuff every now and again that like gets very ouchy, but oh well. Yes, there is a video. One of my favorite, I have a lot of favorite videos from Australia, but one of my favorite Australian videos is a guy driving in the middle of the night. All you can see is like the dirt road and his headlights, and a kangaroo like comes out of nowhere and just like bounces on the windshield and then like kicks the windshield in and then like bounces off. And the guy's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" It's the best thing ever. Almost as good as the guy who's like um, parachuting into the outback, and a kangaroo just like comes out of nowhere and just like hits him really quickly and bounces away. It's just like drive-by menaces. It's hilarious. But I bet the lumber museum smells amazing because like fresh cut wood is the best smell ever. Any wood really is a good smell. Um, any lumber, I should say. Lumber is a good smell. I feel like, yeah. Good thing this doesn't have too many viewers. Otherwise, I think I'd be saying some pretty iffy stuff. Okay, so in the Olympus video, I may or may not have appeared as though I am dogging on birding a little bit. Dogging on birding. Making fun of birding. But I want it to be clear that I'm not. I think birding is a wonderful thing. I went on like a little birding hike a couple years ago, like with a guide and stuff, and I was like, damn, this is like some of the most fun I've ever had. And it's just such a different way to be in the outdoors. You know, it gives you a deeper level of appreciation for all of the things that you hear. It's the same thing with like being able to spot different kinds of plants and stuff. It's just like a new level of integration you have with nature that I think is wonderful. That being said, I have had many a conversation with birders in their binoculars. It's good to have a hobby, okay? It's good to have a hobby, but I think one of, if I may be so bold as to proclaim something that I like about myself, is that I have like this very firm, rational understanding that like nobody cares about my stuff as much as I do. Like, I think because I've elected to pursue such niche hobbies as like camera repair, old camera repair, film photography in general, filmmaking, these are all very niche things that the average bear doesn't necessarily care about. And I don't expect them to, and I don't want them to necessarily. So I know in like the back of my mind that like if I start getting into like the ins and outs of any number of my interests, MMA is a good example of this. Like if I really like start diving into like, well, this person fought this person and their style matches up really well with the champion. I feel like they can do well, but it's interesting because the rest of the division is super heavy striking and then really good wrestling defense. So it could have some issues. That if I get into that, I can just see like you can tell like people are just like, you know, they just don't care. So like I have a little like voice in my head that's like, shut the fuck up. Anytime I kind of get into stuff like that, because people just don't care, and that's fine. I don't expect them to. There are, however, many people I have encountered in my lifetime that are not granted that voice. They do not have that little inner element that tells them, hey, they don't care. And has led me to being the recipient of many, many, many one way dialogues, monologues, you could call them, spiels, even, about all of the various different elements of binoculars, birding, spots, like things that I've never really been that interested in, but I now know a lot of by proxy of being told all about it. It's the same thing with people with telescopes. Again, no beef if you have a telescope, but it's just one of those things where I've interacted with enough telescope people that I feel kind of comfortable painting with a bit of a broad brushstroke, where it's like if a dude's breaking out a telescope in the middle of like a popular walkway, it's like, hey guys, look at me. Look what I'm doing here. I'm just fucking popping up my telescope. I made that mention a few times. I made the mistake of saying that while I had the Pentax 6.7 around my neck, and then my girlfriend has made fun of me for it ever since. She's like, "Oh, you are the telescope guy," and I was like, "No, because I'm not. I'm not trying to get people to talk about it. I'm just out taking photos, but it doesn't matter. Astrology or astronomy, astrology and astronomy, to be honest, kind of very similar crowds. If I'm going to be completely real with you, but just very not my cup of tea. I can respect that you're interested in it. I think it's great to have a hobby there, but like, I don't really care that much. But whatever is what it is. Um, Near Bend, not really. I think it's like 3 hour drive ish. But I have gone to the last Blockbuster twice. I was there a couple weeks ago actually. Like right before we like drove through the fires to get to Bend. It was really cool until we were leaving the last Blockbuster and there was a lady with the Camp Snap CS8 outside of her adventure van filming the last Blockbuster. And I felt like that was the universe telling me to let it go, and get over yourself, which was, I guess, a lesson that I've yet to learn. Um, yes, so that's the other thing too, where it's like when I went on like the birding hike, I was like the only one with a camera, which I thought was kind of weird. Everyone was just like wanting to use binoculars or whatever, and I like that's totally fine. But I'm like, why wouldn't you want to take a photo of it? But I don't know. Part of me is like, well, I guess binoculars are more affordable than cameras, but then, like you said, they spend so much money on these binoculars, and they're like specced out to the nines. They have like image stabilization elements built into the binoculars and like weather sealing, and it's just like super intense stuff. Like, I don't know. Maybe, again, my brain is probably broken to where I'm like, why would you do the thing if you can't take a picture of it? And they're just like, I'm good enough just seeing it. But I feel like you might as well take a picture. But then it's a mouse cookie situation. You know, if you give a mouse a cookie, then he wants a glass of milk and stuff. I feel like if I have a camera with me, then I'm probably going to want to just shoot a video as well. And then if I'm going to shoot a video, well, I might as well want to shoot a video of something differently. And then that's why I don't go birding. So, I don't know. It might be nice just to kind of simplify and go with some cheap binoculars. But I can't imagine spending thousands of dollars the way people do. But I guess if I did spend thousands of dollars, I'd probably want to talk about it as well. But maybe I wouldn't, because I wouldn't want to like confront the consequences of my financial choices. I don't know. Oh well. Okay, I think we'll do 3 more here. Yeah, because it's been 2 hours. Jesus. Okay, we'll do these last 3. We'll wrap it up, and then maybe we'll do this again next week, maybe. I gotta check like my bingo card because I did promise to do multiple live streams in the year. I want to hold myself to that because God knows I failed every other. Oh no, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be really bad. Edson Barbosa is fighting Esteban Ribovic, and Edson Barbosa is very old. He's been knocked out a lot, and he's walking out to the cage. He's already crying. Never a good sign. Never a good sign. Esteban Ribovic is pretty good, I would say. He's Argentinian. Let's see, this Fuji 200. Snapback A1 Fuji 200. He's young. He has pretty good striking, terrible takedown defense, but he's very pressuring. And Edson Barbosa is a fantastic kickboxer. Does not deal well with pressure. He's got great head kicks. He's got a great wheel kick. But the minute that somebody presses him up against the fence, his offense just falls apart. So I suspect that Esteban Ribovic is probably going to press him up against the fence and pick him apart. And it's going to be very sad to watch because, yeah, Edson Barbosa is very old, despite his nickname still being Junior, which I think is kind of funny. I was not looking forward to this fight at all because there's been a lot of things happening recently in the grander world of retired MMA athletes that receive a lot of damage. They get CTE, and then there's all kinds of like cop calling situations and other sorts of nastiness that happens. And I don't think Edson Barbosa is that kind of guy. He seems like a pretty chill dude. I will say he does not look very good with hair. I think he actually looked really good bald, but like, if you have the time, look up Edson Barbosa. Just look up a picture of him. Chiseled out of stone. This man is a Greek god statue. He is like stenciled out of marble. It is insane. He was fighting at 145 recently, which is crazy because he looks massive for 155, but he's like cut out of rock. Like his genetics are insane. Anyway, I got distracted because I just like pulled it up, and he seems like a cool dude though. Like he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. Like he's not gonna go crazy and rob a bank like Lee Murray did, or go crazy and beat up his wife like John Jones has on multiple occasions. John Jones is a terrible person, but he just has had a lot of damage inflicted on him. And I always get kind of worried about that. It's the same with boxing too. Like fucking Pritchard Colon or whatever, the boxer. I think he was Ecuadorian or Chilean or something like that. I don't remember, but he was kind of a famous case because he was this big up and coming talent in boxing. I don't really know how big he was necessarily, but he got a bunch of like strikes to the back of the head, illegal rabbit strikes, I think they're called, to the brainstem basically. And he had like a massive seizure after the fight, and then he was like in a vegetative state, and he like just died. But he was like in that coma for like a decade, it seemed, or a very long time, I think. Not a decade, probably like 8 years or something like that. Doesn't matter. But he like just died, I think, like earlier this month, or late last month, or sometime this year. And I think about stuff like that, I'm just like, fucking hell. Like it's just, yeah. Esteban is closing up against the cage. Edson's trying to kind of circle out, but got open stance too. So probably going to be, man, Esteban's footwork is awful. Anyway, really strong leg kick there. Really strong leg kick. Jesus. I don't know. Some part of me really likes the sport, but then I think about stuff like that. It makes it really hard to watch. Oh no. Not good. Not good. Big old left hook. Edson's already cut open. He's kind of faltering, trying to circle out, wheel kick to the body. Esteban smiling. That's a scary sight to see. Oh, okay. Almost had some exchange happening there. Edson's got him in a tie clinch, but Esteban's using that to press him up against the cage. It's not good. It's not good. It's not a good fight. The thing about this fight is, one, Esteban is very young. He's a very talented striker to some degree. Very aggressive striker, I would say, which is cool to see. In the last few fights, he's been up against like grapplers, which have just like completely muted his ability to conduct any kind of like offense. So it's like, okay, cool, like let's get him in with a striker. But Edson is so old, and he's very fast, but he definitely does not have the same kind of power as he once did. Although, as I say that, he's probably going to knock out Esteban, because Esteban has zero defensive capabilities. He like literally is just in there to get a finish. He's already bloodied up Edson. Ooh, this is a nice little jab over the center. But Edson keeps trying to throw these like hooks, which are slower punches, and it's allowing Esteban to just kind of close in and create this chaos that Edson has to kind of like shimmy out of. But it's not a good look. This is just one of those fights that makes me sad. It's the same time with like Shogun Rua. Mauricio Shogun Rua is like a legend fighting in Pride. And for his like retirement fight in Brazil, they put him up against some fucking guy. Just some guy from Ukraine. It wasn't even like a guy that they were like that excited about, or that guy that they were like trying to promote. It was just like a guy. And it's like, what is the point of this matchmaking? Because it's like, I guess if you're trying to like, make a name off of this legend for one last fight, fine. But then they did nothing to promote the guy that beat Mauricio Shogun Rua. So it's like, what are we doing here? And it wasn't even a good fight for Shogun, because it's like, who's this guy? You know, who's this guy he's fighting? Ribovic has a bit more name power because he had a really good fight against Daniel Zellhuber, which has aged horribly because Daniel Zellhuber's looked terrible in all of his fights. But he had a very good fight at the second Noche card at the Sphere. So like one of like just a big slobber knocker fight. Esteban looked really good. So he's got like a bit of a name, but still, it's like, what does this do for him? Because everybody knows that Edson Barbosa is like old, and the blueprint on how to beat Edson Barbosa has been out for like a decade. This is Fuji 200. This is the Cherry Blossoms. I don't remember what camera this was. Off the top of my head, what one was this? The zoom lens on it. Nicomat? FTN? I think it was a Nicomat. No, this was the Nikon F. Nikon F. That's what I was shooting with. I remember it was a Nikon. I remember I had the zoom lens. So Nikon F, Cherry Blossoms, early this year. Oh. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Herb Dean, let's get in there. I think this is done. I think we're done here. Okay. Anyway. That was a terrible fight. Going into the second round, though, so that's cool. Cherry Blossoms. Anyway. Ooh. Nasty cut on the leg. Yeah, get a close-up on that camera, guy. Oh! The tooth was bad. This is worse. This is worse. Anyway. Got a reset here. that was nasty. Edson Barbosa apparently has a massive cut on his leg, and it's pretty gory and bleeding. And this is when I wish that there were more corner stoppages in MMA, because I think we should just be done. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? What are we doing here is also what I'm asking. There's corner stoppage for this live stream. I'm almost done. I want to finish up these three, and I know if I don't record me doing this, I probably won't do it. Because I'm just so excited to get to answering emails, which is what I'm going to do after this live stream. So if you've sent me an email, you might hear back from me relatively soon. I need to get back on that because a lot of people trying to reach out. But I've been feeling kind of bad because it's like I can't do much in terms of like actual repair work still. We're definitely getting there. Like I can do a bit more. My thumb, I mentioned this I think in a recent video, but my thumb hurts a lot. So like gripping things and like being able to create any kind of torque is pretty difficult, which a lot of repair stuff is like gripping and torquing and stuff. But yeah, but the doctor, when he was talking about the surgery, he was like, "How's your thumb doing?" I was like, "Oh, you know, whatever." He was like, "Oh, I had to take that whole thing." He was like, "I moved your thumb all the way out," and I was like, dude, no, don't tell me that. I don't need that visual. Nasty." So yeah, every now and again I'll move and I'm like, "Ooh, what's this? What is this new and exciting pain?" So yeah, my repair schedule's taken a bit of a hit, but that's kind of made me not want to like respond to emails, because a lot of the emails I get are like repair related. Hey, can you fix this or whatever? And I'm just like, I can on a good day, but not having too many good days these days. Shocking nobody. Esteban Ribovic just standing TKO'd Edson Barbosa halfway into the second round. Fight that didn't need to happen. Does really nothing for either one of them except create a lot of damage and potential brain injuries moving forward. So that's really good stuff. I just don't know, man. there's been a few times in recent years where I've like been watching the sport and been like, this is a clear sign that this is not for me. But like, what else am I going to do on a Saturday if not watch this? Probably read, just do more negative sorting because I'm definitely behind on that and need to catch up on it. I'm also very much looking forward to ending this live stream so I can get the AC on in here because it's not hot, but it's uncomfortable, I would say. It's like it's a little warm, but regardless. All right, almost done. Got one roll left to sort. And I think what we'll do is I will dedicate the next amount of time that I'm sorting this to just talking about film things, because I realized I just went on a very long fight tirade because there was one fight on that I was not interested in outside of the morbid curiosity. The next fight is... yeah, this is like one of the worst fight cards I've ever seen in my life. Jesus. Anyway, so yeah, we'll focus in on non-MMA stuff because nobody wants to talk about that shit. So cool. Let's see what our final roll is here that I'm going to be putting away. It is... oh, it's a disposable from, I think it's a disposable. So 25... ow, fucking hell, Jesus. Ow. Also, my wrist has been popping a lot recently, and I'm not entirely sure how good that is. There's a lot of weird pops and things happening there. Anywho, that's a 24 exposure. It says 400. I guess that's what that is. Weird. I don't remember this. Oh, yeah, Edson Barbosa's retiring. Thank God. So, let's talk very quickly, if we can, about some film stuff. What do I have to talk about? Oh, bit of an interesting topic that I'm going to start looking into before the news video coming out on Monday. Cinestill. What's up there? Namely the 400D film, which I've actually never shot any of, because Cinestill stuff is so expensive. But their stuff is, it's gone by the looks of it. Like, there's no 400D on their website for sale outside of the 120. Freestyle has the sheet film for sale on like clearance, and I don't think that I didn't see 35mm for sale anywhere, so far as I could tell. Some people have been like, oh, we'll just get the Reflex Labs 400D, but that's also not anywhere to be found. Neither is the Reflex Labs 800T. Now, a big thought behind that is because of Kodak's introduction of the anti-halation film as opposed to the Remjet film. You know, not able to wash the Remjet off a film that doesn't have Remjet into it, so the product lineup has seemingly gone to the wayside, which is interesting, I guess, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, what, if that's the case, what is the lasting impact of this? Are neon signs and gas stations finally safe from the scourge of late night photography walks and things of that nature? who's really to say? I think that there's always going to be some element of it that exists because Cinestill is a very popular product, and based upon my little bit of insight, I think Cinestill and Kodak have a fairly functioning and profitable working relationship, so it would not surprise me if they are still producing film for Cinestill in that regard, because it does fill a bit of a niche. But that kind of goes back to a point that came up like a year or so ago, 2 years ago, I think, with the Cinestill controversy, which is, do they have a right to trademark the name of this product or anything like that, because it's technically not their product. Like, they popularized it and they brought it to the forefront, and that's cool, but it's Kodak film. Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing that kind of gets my girder about it the most is the fact that Cinestill 800T never dropped in price. Like, it just was always the most expensive film on the market. And for being kind of such a one-note thing as it was, I don't know. It's weird to me. It's weird to me. I don't know what element or like what cost it was for them to get the film from Kodak, but I just struggle to think, oh, Matt Hughes, what are you doing? I'm going to circle back to that in a minute. I'm going to finish this thought and I'm going to circle back to that in a minute. But Matt Hughes was just like pretending to strangle Yusuf Zalal, who's a very small guy. Matt Hughes is like an old fighter. It doesn't matter. We'll circle back to that in a moment. Cinestill obviously introduced other products. The 50D comes to mind, the black and white comes to mind, the 400D comes to mind as well. But those are also all films that Kodak produced that they put their name on. And so, you know, it's one of those things where, like, I presume that they're making a profit somewhere along the way. And if that's the case, what then is that profit being invested into? Like, is it just invested purely into the continuation of that product line, or is it investing more into the lining of the pockets and stuff? And I don't know. And truthfully, it's their company; they can do whatever they want with it. But I do feel like it potentially is open to a little bit of examination and speculation. The interesting thing to me is that if it is the case that the AHU layer has pretty much eroded the potential for any of these like tungsten-based films with the halation and all this to be made, well then one, I think that introduces a very easy window for Harman to step in and just produce, like, if they can. I know they're working on like the 125 speed film, and the fastest they have thus far is 200. But if they can produce a slightly faster, slightly more controlled halation film, then I think that, you know, that's a market opening for them. They already have the halation down, just gotta dial it back a little bit. Neither here nor there. But if that doesn't exist anymore, what are we looking at in terms of the spread of film? It's just going to be a bunch of AHU films that are being released, and it's good because you can develop them in C41, but it's also like, okay, like, again, you're not producing any new product necessarily. It's just kind of a recanning operation, which I just feel kind of weird about, because I don't know, it just feels kind of strange. Just my opinion there. I don't know. But yes, that's all that I really do need to develop that thought a little bit more. I kind of touched on it recently in the future and health of film photography and whatever else, because it's just been something I've been thinking about a lot as like all these new creative films are being released that are like really expensive. I know that, for instance, I was thinking about the like Kono films that are just put out on Freestyle Photo. Those are there. Those are probably not as expensive for Freestyle Photo to buy. They're maybe like $15 a roll, or 16 or 17 or whatever. And any distributor has to mark up the price a little bit, just because like that's what you have to do. So the actual price of the film is maybe a little bit lower than $18.49, but regardless, that's still very high, I think, for an objectively shitty looking film. Like, I just think it looks bad. Like, it looks mucusy and terrible. You're gonna pay fucking Portrait 100 money for shit? Really? I don't know. People are into that thing. More power to you. But it's like, again, I kind of go back to Ultramax is $9 a roll. Why would you not just get 2 rolls of Ultramax? Or just get 1 roll of Ultramax, get it developed, and you're still spending like not as much as you would for this 1 roll of terrible film. I don't know. It's a weird thing I think about, but whatever. I did also get some lucky C400 in. I'm very excited to see my results there. I will have a video out on that relatively soon. I need to finish up the roll, which I'll try to do tomorrow, potentially. We'll see. But I'm very excited for it. I'm excited to see it in 120 because I think that will be pretty awesome, honestly, just as a more affordable alternative, slightly faster color medium format film. We'll see how that goes. I also just got some results back from the lucky C200 I shot in 120, which are exquisite, I have to say. Even though kind of messed up a couple of them, it still looks pretty good. So anyway, 800T is incredibly overpriced. I've shot a few rolls of it. It just never really gelled with me, because I feel like it's a bit of a one-trick kind of pony, personally. But whatever. Going back to the thing that I witnessed previously, Matt Hughes is the second best, third-ish best welterweight of all time. GSP, some people are like, oh, Kamaru Usman, but like, he fought Jorge Masvidal twice, okay? Like, he fought Colby Covington, and, the Gilbert Burns fight was impressive, but Gilbert Burns is a 155er that's kind of bloated up to 170. Love Gilbert Burns, seems like a great guy, but regardless, I think Matt Hughes, while he was like an earlier generation, I think his strength of schedule is much more impressive than Kamaru Usman's, but that's just my personal opinion there. So to me, it's like GSP, Matt Hughes kind of thing. There's a bit of a gap there because Matt Hughes also lost to BJ Penn twice. Not a good look, but BJ Penn's phenomenal, so whatever, except his political career has been not great. Again, speaking back to people who have been fighting for too long have accrued a massive amount of brain damage. But Matt Hughes also has done that because he was in a train accident. His truck was like on train tracks. He got hit by the train, and he was like in a coma for a while. And now he's like, he can move and all this stuff now, because this happened back in like 2017, I think it was, 2018, 2019, one of those years. So he's better now, I guess, if that's something you can get better from, if you can recover from that. He has done so to some degree. But it was also released not too long after he was able to walk and move around again. They like trotted him out to a UFC event, and everyone's like, "Whoa, Matt Hughes, he's back!" And he's just like, he's having a hard time walking. He's with a bunch of other people. It was a beautiful little moment. And they're like, "Oh, this is awesome." And then like a few weeks after that, it came out that like his twin brother, and his wife filed for divorce, and they both filed for restraining orders against him because he was like physically assaulting them, which is bad. Totally bad. I just think, how committed to the game of abusing others do you have to be to like get hit by a train? And then like he was cheating on his wife too. He was like, she saw him like texting a bunch of other girls and stuff after train accident, which is just like very strange. I'm talking about Matt Hughes only because they showed him on the broadcast very quickly, and he was like grabbing this other fighter who clearly did not want to be grabbed, and I just it's like, what poor taste to like, you have all these open allegations against like abusing, physically assaulting your family members and stuff, and then you're like jokingly assaulting this guy. uh, yeah, weird, weird look. That's all I'm going to say about that. Not as weird as like 2 weeks ago when Daniel Rodriguez was fighting Uros Medic, sorry, Uros Medic, and they kept mentioning how Daniel Rodriguez just got out of Mexican prison. Like, oh, did you know Daniel Rodriguez? Like every 5 minutes, like D-Rod was in Mexican prison, like not 3 weeks ago. And it's like, what are we doing here? What a terrible fucking sport. What a terrible sport. What a waste of time. Anyway, that is it. I think we're good now. 115 minutes of this shit. I think we've done all that we can here. We did what we came here to do, folks. I have like a litany of garbage here. All of the old negative sleeves and stuff. I'll have to figure out what to do with those. But that's pretty much it. I think we're good. I think this was a relatively good fucking Jesus use of time. These fights were terrible. This was probably terrible for you as well, but I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Thank you very much. I might do this again in the future. We will see. But if we don't ever do it again, I think this is good evidence as to suggest why we should never do this again. So, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it very much. Go check out the other videos on the channel. They're a little bit more put together than this is. Yeah, thank you again, and I will catch you on